All right. What I'm going to do is, I had to do a quick test to make sure everything was working fine. I was getting the little circle going on. So I tested it. Everything's working fine. We got 0 watching, which is okay. This is the first one I'm going to do. If you guys find the stuff that I'm talking about interesting, then yeah, you'll all jump in. Remember, I'm doing the live stream so you guys can do Q&A. But while we're waiting to see if we get anybody jumping in, let's take a look at what we got in comments. And remember, man, I'm doing this for fun, all right? Gilman says, oh my God, where have you been? I took a little bit of a sabbatical. I wanted to kind of decide what I wanted to do, where I wanted to go with the channels. I was going at it pretty hard for about 3 years. So I really needed a break. I mean, I was really going way too hard at YouTube. So I took a bit of a break, did a couple of videos here and there, and kind of decided in January it was time to get back into it again. Gerald Rainier says, I'm loving this, mate. Thank you. Well, you're welcome. Duke says, don't you get killed for telling the secrets? Didn't you take an oath? He's probably talking about the Freemasons. Freemasons are notorious for that. The other systems generally aren't, but you got to keep in mind, most of the secrets, let's say Vajrayana, which comes out of Tibet, and don't let that form of Buddhism fool you. There's 4 branches of Buddhism, and Vajrayana is the most esoteric, which would be the closest to what we would term as ritual magic, along that line. So, if you notice, the Tibetan Buddhists have put out pretty much all of their philosophy, all of their information out in books. And that's kind of how they support themselves now that they don't have a country. It's pretty much the same with Freemason. Almost all of the information that you need you can find on the internet now, or you can actually find it in books. So as far as them killing people, that doesn't really occur anymore. This goes back quite a few years, you know, when that was taken seriously, but it's really not taken seriously now. And let's see, Yali loves Allie. Oh, that's cute. Yali loves Allie. Where's the information? Question mark. We want knowledge of the past, the ideology, and the history. Okay, for what exactly? The occult, if you want to just look at the term the occult, that goes back probably to the dawn of man. Shamanism, back to tribal, probably to the Neanderthal and beyond. That's something that man has always explored, is the nature of reality and the nature of the mind. That's just a common thing, and generally shamans were the ones that used to do it within the tribal structure. So it really depends on what branch you're talking about. If you're talking about internal alchemy, now we would have to talk about, are you talking the Hermetic version? Not the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. There's the Hermetic version of internal alchemy. And Taoists also have an internal alchemy. In fact, I'll put it this way. Pretty much all of the major religions, except for Christianity, has a form of internal alchemy, which is the purification of the spirit, or the purification of the body, purification of the mind, to where it can go beyond where we are now. One of the things that you're going to probably have to take for granted, and I would suggest studying up on it if you don't believe in it, because it really does make sense that this occurs, is reincarnation. So you're going to have to kind of, a few give-me's I get. One of them is reincarnation. So almost all of the forms, except for Christianity, which, by the way, does mention reincarnation. It just doesn't support it. But anyways, most all religions support reincarnation. And the idea behind internal alchemy is to gain enough self-mastery to where you're not incarnated anymore. Or if you do incarnate back on the earth, you're incarnating because you want to incarnate, or you have a purpose for incarnating. You're not incarnating on this earth involuntarily because you have to do it. You're incarnating because there's a purpose that you want to do, or something that you wish to accomplish. So that's kind of the difference between the two on those. Oh my God, I got 4 people watching. Okay, how come I do not have comments going? Hey guys, Gilman says, yeah, hey Gilman, what's up, man? Freemasons rule our world under the Jesuit order. All right, I kind of want to keep the topics for the live stream on the one that we're. No. I see you, Gilman. I want to kind of keep the topics on the material that I place before I come on to do the live stream. Live stream is really about asking questions and giving answers. For instance, today's was about what the occult is and what the spiritual path is, or the magical path, or whatever you want to call it. Everybody's got a ton of different names for it, okay? Depending upon what your predilection is and what you connect to. But it's still, as I said in the video, it's still just one path. There's one canyon, okay? And everybody follows that same canyon to the end once you start walking the path. So the path is really, again, the canyon. But I will want to bring this up, though. I really don't believe that Freemasons rule the world, okay? I like the terminology. I use the terminology Illuminati because it's a common term. And words are symbols. So if I say Illuminati, people are going to connect to what I'm trying to say. But the people that rule the world, I believe, have had their own religion since the dawn of time, from Egypt all the way on down, probably since Babylon. They've had priests, they've had mystics, etc., all throughout that time. Freemason came along, the Illuminati through Freemason came along a long time later. Freemasons actually originally was a form of education during the time of the Egyptians. So it really wasn't evil in any way. In fact, in a lot of ways, what they were doing was disseminating the information that they were able to get from the priests that were working with the kings and queens. Even though we don't have kings and queens, we still have kings and queens, okay? We still do. We still have a monarchy for different areas. And much of what they learned is passed down from family to family. I would really look more at the concept of the skull and bones over the concept of the Illuminati. Again, they didn't need to branch off from Freemasons. They didn't need to. Freemasons, again, was originally created as a way of giving knowledge. And then, of course, Freemasons developed internal alchemy also, just like, again, I was saying at the very beginning. All of them. Yeah, actually, like the Rothschilds. Yeah, Jacob says, but here, let me start at the beginning here on the comments, because I really enjoy. What I used to enjoy at the Shaolin Temple, I used to do classes on the nature of the mind and the nature of reality. I was able to actually do a debate and win with the masters. So if you're able to do that, then you can do you can teach. And the fun part that I've always enjoyed was questions and answers. I've never enjoyed lecturing. You can probably tell I'm a little bit hesitant when I do the lecturing part. But questions and answers I love. So that kind of answers, your question on the Freemasons. But the Jesuit order is actually coming through more the Catholic. And again, the Catholicism, as it is a ritual magic organization, if you really want to call it that way. Everybody that's Catholic out there probably just took a deep breath and went, oh my God. But really, if you look at all of that they do, it's all ritual. The prayers are ritual. And all different ones do it the same way. Prayers are considered rituals. So the Jesuit order is actually more from Catholicism. Now, let's see. NSK Pool. I'm a Muslim and have these satanic Illuminati or whatever stalk me pretty much everywhere I go, including hacking my phone. I don't know what I did to deserve that. Any help? Well, you'd have to give me more information. If you want to send me an email giving more of a description, sure, I'll be happy to tell you what I know about it, or again, I can't really comment because there's just not enough information there. Now, I find that hard to believe that it's hacking you because you're a Muslim, but, it's hard to say. So again, if you want to send me an email, talkconnections@gmail.com, go into more detail. I'll give you what advice I can. Yeah, Gilman asked a good question. How do you know they're hacking your phone? Gilman says Jacob Rothschild is basically a king. Kind of talked about that already. Wait, Mark Miller says, wait, so we are all in the canyon now? Yes, let me explain this, okay? So most everybody on this planet is at the very beginning of the canyon, okay? So figure at the end of most all canyons, at the end of it, it's circle or whatever, and it goes back up and then it curls around, right? That's the concept of a canyon. I'm going to, next week, the first one that I want to do on the occult is the 10 bulls. And the first bull talks about being lost in the forest, which I'm going to discuss, okay? That's at the very beginning of the canyon. So we're all there. The problem is that our illusions or our paradigms that we have make it impossible for us to, because of the trees again, makes it impossible to see that we're on the path. Everybody is on the path. You don't even have to try to move along the path. Eventually, you're going to get to the end of the canyon. Okay? We're all going to grow. That's the concept of reincarnation. The difference with internal alchemy is to consciously take control of that process and begin to move along a little bit faster. So in other words, I don't want to wait 1,000 lifetimes before I finally say, okay, I'm done with Earth and I want to move on and connect with God, heaven, the universe, whatever terminology that you want to use, the Tao, the nothingness, whatever terminology that you want to use. Everybody's trying to say the same thing. They want to go beyond where we are now. They want to expand. They want to grow. They want to move beyond. So we all are going to get there eventually. Now, if you start to study the occult and you start to understand the nature of the mind and reality, you can take huge leaps forward in that process and move to the end of the canyon, if you want to put it that way, much faster and under much more control. I'm hoping that answers your question, Mark. NSK Pool, it's been going on for like 5 years now. Last couple of years were rough this year. Again, send me an email. Okay, so you're getting tickets. How does that have to do with the satanics? So we have satanic cops now also, is what you're saying? Ask it because there are many symptoms phone showing. YouTube wants to. I'm not surprised. He's saying YouTube wants to censor flat Earth videos now. I'm not surprised. I'm really not. And by the way, I answered your question on the other channel. So far, they haven't demonetized it, which is usually your first indicator that they don't like what you're producing. So they've left it monetized, and I know they've reviewed it, so they don't seem to mind. I suppose if I start talking about summoning Satan and connecting with him, etc., then I might get censored. But again, that's not the purpose of the show. If that's what you want to do, I'm not going to judge you. Again, I'm going to tell you, at the end of the path, we all end up in the same place anyways. No matter how you're consciously doing it, all the paths are the same, are different paths within that particular canyon, and the canyon's only going to lead to one place, and that's out. Okay, anybody got questions? Well, that's your first problem, NSK. NSK, I'm going to tell you the truth. Calls cutting off or dialing people that I did not dial. Do you, put your phone in your pocket? They have this thing called pocket dial. Well, again, send me a detailed. I'm going to mute you if you continue on this. I want to talk about what we talked, or what I was talking about originally in the video this morning. Anybody got questions on the video? If not, we'll just make it a short one. This is kind of like when I was doing it on the other channel. I think the first couple of live streams that we did were pretty short, but then after that, it started to get more and more people that were showing up, and I'm sure the same thing will happen here. Again, my idea, guys, is I'm not out to get a following. More subscribers, great. This is more for, shall we say, my own therapy. I want to get things more organized in my mind, should I say. I've been following the path now for close to 40 years, and I learned a lot. And it comes in different, it's not linear like what you all might be thinking. Okay, NSK Pool says, why Illuminati is so secret? Okay, it's not really so much a matter of being secret. And according to what most people say, Illuminati has died out. I think it was about 80 years, 90 years after it was first started. But anyways, to make a long story short, like what I talked about in the video earlier today, it's not that they're being secretive. What it is that the things that they say, people are not ready to hear. And a lot of orders and a lot of different systems of the path, if you want to call it that way, what they'll do is they'll say things in such a way that people will be able to accept and understand, or to hook you in to where you stay longer and learn more. Does that make more sense? Like, I mean, there's stuff I can say right now that would blow your all's mind. As a matter of fact, it would probably turn most all of you off, and they'd say, oh, John's crazy. I mean, that's insane. It can't be that way. But if you move far enough along the path, if you gain enough knowledge, self-knowledge, and the nature of reality, you'll go, oh, wait, John was right long time ago. It all depends on, what level. Here, let me put it this way. We all know about 9/11, right? This is a better way to put it. So I'm sure everybody knows about 9/11. To this day, I've got videos of the Twin Towers falling. And it is obvious as hell to me that it's a demolition. You can see the explosions going off just like in a demolition. But there are people out there that so believe that the government could not do that, or people could not do that, that they can look at that video and not see that it's a demolition. You can even show them a video of several demolitions before you show them the video of the Twin Towers. And they're still going to say, no. It was the planes that did it. Okay, well, here's all the data that shows that there's still no way that those towers are going to fall. No, it was the planes. And then you have to bring up one of the biggest common sense, points out there. Again, people are only going to believe what it is that they can believe. So you bring up to them, okay, can I ask you a question? The 2 tallest buildings in New York, all of the rubble did not exceed to the street. It fell directly straight down. Didn't fall on other buildings. Not a brick touched another building. I don't know, maybe a few bricks did, but you know what I mean, okay? There was no real damage to any other buildings around there. And that's 2 towers, not just one, okay? 2 towers. What do you think the odds are of that actually occurring? And yet they're still going to believe that it was a terrorist attack and that the towers fell because of the planes. That's paradigms in action. This is what I'm talking about. You all of us, have these paradigms in front of our eyes that keep us from seeing what's really in front of us, seeing the nature of reality. And to try to tell somebody other than what their paradigm is pretty much useless. That's part of the reason I stopped teaching. I came to the conclusion that there was nothing that I could teach because nobody's going to believe me anyways. And that's the process. Here, let me give you a little bit of information. There's 2 aspects to the mind. There's actually more, but we'll talk about the 2 major aspects. Is the calculating aspect of the mind and the wisdom aspect of the mind. And this has been validated through, different orders throughout history. The Buddhists say the same thing. Taoists say the same thing. Druids, in Britain say the same thing. Everybody has said the same thing. There's two aspects of the mind. One is the wisdom aspect, and the other is the calculating. Unfortunately, our ego controls the calculating aspect of the mind. For internal alchemy to occur, you've got to educate the wisdom aspect. And the only way that the wisdom aspect learns is through experience. The calculating aspect of the mind learns from listening to other people, either through study or trial and error. Now, remember, trial and error educates the wisdom. The calculating aspect of the mind relies on outside information, which is almost always other people telling you what reality is, or what is real and what is not. Am I making sense here, guys? There's a distinction between the two. Because let's say if I want to learn about internal alchemy and I start to study it, well, what I'm actually doing if I'm reading books, etc., is I'm taking symbols, which are words, I'm translating those in my mind, and I'm really believing what he is telling me, not what I experienced. So that's the difference between the two. Most all alchemy is a form of gaining wisdom or appealing to the wisdom aspect of the mind. As a matter of fact, in Taoism, what they say is that wisdom should always be the master, and the calculating aspect or the intellect should be the servant. Unfortunately, for most everybody on this planet, and this is part of where our delusions come in, because we learned by listening to other people, not by doing it ourselves. Oh, let's take a look. What does people say? Bush is an ass. Yeah, he is. If they're all good people, why not put it out on the table and let everyone see? I think I probably explained that. I think what you're talking about is why they don't just tell everybody the truth straight out. And I believe the analogy of the 9/11 is perfect. Some people are in a place to where they can see the reality of what 9/11 was, and others are not. Now, unfortunately, here's the thing. If I start spouting out a bunch of stuff that is true, okay, it's true, but other people can't see it, odds are good, especially in primitive time, I'm going to be, hung, crucified, lots of other good stuff. Because people just, people want to believe what they believe. That's their security zone. And what they want to believe is what everybody else believes, because that's even more security. That applies to our instincts to have self-preservation through the herd. It's just normal. Well, most of the secret societies now, Gilman says secret societies are secret. Most of them aren't really that as secret as what they used to be. I mean, they're still pretty secret, but they're not as secret as what they used to be. Again, as I said, most of them put out books now. I mean, you can read the books on it. You guys are lucky. You can find most of this on the internet. When I first started studying the occult, way back, in primitive times, I actually had to go to bookstores, etc., to find books on it. We didn't really have the internet. Actually, we didn't have the internet. Had a really nice collection of books up. And you actually had, as a matter of fact, I'm going to tell you all, there's a new path within that canyon to where people are going to be able to move along the path without having to join a group. But in the past, you used to have to join a group where you would have a guru. Hopefully, you would have a good group with a good guru that actually wanted you to be able to walk along the path and not just get your money or, have followers. But that was the way it was done in the past, is that it was taught from teacher to student. Now people can get that same information via books. And again, when you guys read a book, they're going to tell you the truth, but you're going to interpret that truth that you see in a way that you can understand whether it's true or not. Dwight says yes. Hopefully he's agreeing to something I'm saying. Gilman says cognitive dishonest. Yeah. In other words, you can't see what's in front of your face. Vinnie Vinton, how can you change your thought patterns to know when not to listen? Good question, Vinnie. What do you mean? Okay, I'm going to assume that I want to make sure I understand your question. If you guys can, I believe I've got it for extended now, to where you guys can type in more information before you post it. The more information you give me, the easier it is for me to explain. I'm going to suspect that you're talking about when you're hearing things that are not true, okay? I'm going to have to tell you the truth. You're not going to like it. It's a development of the wisdom aspect of the mind. How can you change your thought patterns to know when not to listen? Now, you may agree with this or you may disagree. Don't believe anything that you hear. Something I discovered a long time ago is the truth of the matter is almost always opposite of what people tell you. Almost always the opposite of what you believe or what people believe. The power of the mind is huge, guys, huge. So you got to figure that the person that's telling you something picked it up from somebody else whose calculating aspect of the mind listened and decided that it wanted to believe it. Because, generally speaking, what we want to believe benefits who? Us, our ego. Remember, the ego is generally in control of the calculating aspect of the mind. The soul is in control of the wisdom aspect of the mind. That's why they say wisdom should be the master and the calculating aspect of the mind should be the servant. I want to bring up something real quick, too, for you all to ponder. If you really think about it, how many times have you calculated out something that you wanted to get and it actually happened in the way that you calculated? That's homework for you. Meditate on that. Think about it. How many times have you calculated out how to get what you want and you actually got what you wanted the way you calculated it out? Point I'm trying to make is, if you think about it, you'll find that it hardly ever happens. The calculating aspect of the mind is fallible, extremely fallible. All it's good at is counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay? It's good for memorizing things. That's all it's really good for. It's good for reminding you things. Other than that, the wisdom aspect of the mind will always lead you in the correct direction. Almost always. Dwight, takes 9 seconds for the fall down. That's demo free. Oh yeah, there's again, but people, Dwight, okay, all of you guys know that believe that 9/11 was not a terrorist attack, or it was planned. It had to be planned. Okay, well, all we know for sure is it was planned, right? We don't know who did it, okay, and I don't like to speculate. This is another way to kind of keep falsehoods out of your mind. Go by what you see, okay? So what I see and what I know for a fact is that it was planned out ahead of time because the charges had to be set. Okay, it was planned out ahead of time. And also, it had to time out to where the planes hit it for the demolition to go off, so it was planned ahead of time. So this is where conjecture comes in and the calculating aspect of the mind. The wisdom aspect says, I see this, I know that this is true, okay? That's your wisdom telling you that. Now, where the calculating aspect of the mind now comes in is it says, okay, well, let's calculate out who has the resources to be able to do it, and it starts to study, it starts to, you get the idea? To find out who could possibly do it. But again, you have no real proof. It may sound true to the calculating aspect of the mind, but it doesn't mean that it is. Gilman says, Building 7 fell for no reason. Nobody that is sane should be able to explain that away as coincidence. Well, the news did it, and all of America pretty much believed it. It was the vibrations from the two towers falling, causing it to weaken and fall also. And that's what the news reported, and that's what everybody decided that they were going to believe. Hey, Abstract Echo's here, too. Actually, what a minute. Don't you guys, have a life here? Abstract Echo says, actually, 3 towers. Yeah, I know. We already kind of talked about that. And more, let's see, NSK says, and media prohibit to discuss about it if they do fire on spot like this African-American guy was fired recently. Well, generally, they're not even going to talk about it, Or if they do, you're going to be shamed, okay? The government has put out its report. The media has reported it to the people as the truth. So anybody that disagrees needs to be shamed into place. Gilman, YouTube is also going to censor 9/11 videos, and 3 topics that said that they will censor are 9/11, flat earth, and natural cures. I'm not surprised. Remember, natural cures compete with advertisers. Well, they have pharmaceuticals, etc., that want to advertise. And pharmaceuticals are all part of the big, elite group, as it is. And, yeah. Dale has the twins are now one. Yeah, they are. NSK pulls, so my point, how they are so true, but yet hide, doesn't add up. Because you can't see it. Just as, all right, let's go back to 9/11 again, okay? If you think about it, there was a process that you went through of education or learning or seeing things, okay, that gradually led you to the point to where you could say to yourself, okay, that was a demolition. You had to see it for yourself. You had to see steps that led to that possibility to where you could now accept the probability that it was a demolition. If not, odds are good that you would not believe it. It is the same with the occult. You have to take enough of the steps to where you can move aside. Remember, believing that 9/11 was not a demolition is an illusion. Remember, I was talking about how illusions cloud our mind, cloud the truth, cloud our vision, clouds the nature of reality. Okay? The process of internal alchemy, magic, whatever you want to call it, again, I'm not big about giving any names to anything, is to move aside illusions so you can actually see reality. How in the world can you change an illusion? It's an illusion. The only way to control the world around you and control yourself is to what? Be able to see what's really real. If you're sitting there trying to manipulate an illusion, it's not going to happen because it's an illusion. It's not real. Is this making more sense? So the process, again, is moving aside those illusions to be able to see. And those go by steps. You step your way up. Now, the ability to see that 9/11 was a demolition was a process of you taking steps to be able to see the reality of the situation. The occult is the same way. That's why they don't place everything out on the table. You have to lead people up to the truth. You have to bring them up through steps. The twins are now dead. Yes, okay, Gilman. If they have nothing to hide, then they shouldn't be threatened by these topics. Dwight, I'm full behind you, bro. Good. Okay, so you're agreeing with what I'm saying. Duke says law of attraction. Law of attraction has been around for almost, 4, 5, 6,000 years. If you check into Buddhism, you'll look up this thing called karma or dharma. It explains the law of attraction much better than the spiritualists do. Spiritualists did pretty good on it. In fact, a lot of the things that the whole New Age movement does is a rebranding of what you'll find in Buddhism. Now, but I kind of like the Buddhism a little bit better because if you think about it, Buddhism has been around for thousands of years. Imagine thousands of Buddhists and temples all over the country, okay? All they did all day long is meditate on the nature of the mind and the nature of reality. That's all they do, all day long, thousands of them. And then they share everything that they learn. How knowledgeable do you think that they could get? Interesting thought, huh? NSK. So I heard in a cult, it's huge punishment if you go out and tell people what they do behind doors. It used to be, it's not so much now. All that's really going to happen now is that you're going to get excommunicated. They'll just kick you out. Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about with the cognate. I just can't pronounce it. I know exactly what it is. Gilman, there were no planes, though, just cruise missiles. Yeah. Gilman, in the media. All right, so you guys are still on 9/11. So tell me, Gilman, who can these kinds of things? Guys, again, I want to bring up something. The more you put labels on something, you notice I try really hard not to put labels on things. The more you try to put labels on things, every time you do a label, what you're doing is you're limiting your vision. Okay? Because remember, words are symbols. They are. When a word comes up, when somebody says a word to you, thousands of symbols are going off in your mind. This is how you're able to understand what they're saying to you. What you're really doing is you're translating symbols. You're not translating words. You're translating different symbols. Every word is a symbol for something. Okay? So the minute that you label something, you have placed a stamp on it. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't change the label. It just makes it way harder to change the label. Because, let's face facts, the mind is lazy. We're all lazy. Once we label something, we tend to like to keep that label. Because we're going to make other labels within our mind based on that label. So if I remove one label, I may have 1,000 labels that I now have to reprocess and relabel again. So the more that you can keep yourself from judging and labeling things, the more open your mind is going to be. Like I said, I don't judge any particular path because I'm far enough along the path that I know that they're all going to lead to the same place. You know, one may be a little bit more painful than the other. It's the difference. You know, the idea is that people get attracted to the path, be able to start to put their intent into the path. The only thing that moves you along the path is your intent, okay? All you have to do is intend to do it. And slowly but surely the universe will start to rotate. It'll start to spin on its axis. It'll start to put synchronicities into place. You want to know when you take a step? You have an epiphany. There's synchronicities that occur. You'll pick up a book, and for whatever reason, you'll go to a certain paragraph and read it and go, oh my God, that's the answer to the question I had. It's true, guys. That's happened to me countless times. I'd been really trying to figure out, really trying to get it within my own mind, a concept of the occult. And because of, again, of my own beliefs and my own illusions, I couldn't see it, even though the answer was in front of my face. And I would pick up a book and I would read a section and it would click. I would have an epiphany. Whenever you have an epiphany, that is an indication of a step that you've taken up the ladder, okay? You don't want to talk Jacob's ladder. Again, guys, all religions, everybody has the same terminologies of the occult. It could be Jacob's ladder, so another step up the ladder. It could be the 10 bulls. It could be whatever you want to take a look at. But you guys getting an idea of what I'm talking about, right? They're sick. They're a power-hungry psycho. Satan's best tool is he hides. Well, okay, NSK, in all fairness, again, I'm not a Satanist. Anyway, I don't want you guys to believe that. But let's be fair. Catholicism hides a hell of a lot of stuff, too. So is that a tool of God now? I mean, you know, it's really all in what you want to, you know, how you want to view it. Vinny, great answer. Is logical thinking part of the wisdom of the calculating mind? No. Okay. Vinny, you have to think of them as two separate aspects within your own mind. I'll be doing probably an education on the aspects of the personality. We like to think that we are a whole person, okay? And that's because we're used to seeing ourselves as a whole person. But let me give you an example. So let's take a look at the body, right? We think of the body as a whole. Truth of the matter is, it's made up of what? The respiratory system, the sexual system, the circulatory. It's broken down into a bunch of different segments. Our personality, or our mind, is actually broken down into a bunch of different segments. But they work so cohesively that it appears to be the whole, whereas it's actually pieces. So, the two leaders, okay, of your mind is the calculating aspect of the mind and the wisdom aspect of the mind. For most of us, the calculating aspect of the mind is the master, with wisdom trying to be the master, which is what it's supposed to be. But the calculating aspect of the mind is the master, with wisdom being the servant. So there are actually two aspects. So, again, let me read this again, make sure I'm answering your question. Is logical thinking part of the wisdom or... Now, let's look at the term logical thinking, okay? Is this logical thinking because you're reading it and learning from somebody else? Or is this logical thinking because you're using experiences that you have to come to a conclusion? That's the difference between the two. Is that making more sense? Both of them could be the correct answer. Is logical thinking part of the wisdom or calculating? It could be both. But it depends on where the information is coming from for either one. Again, if you're doing it through books or what people are telling you, you're using the calculating aspect of the mind. If you're doing it from experiences, okay, there's a saying, and one that you have to get used to if you're going to study the occult. And it's a good way to move illusions aside. And this is a perfect example of the wisdom aspect of the mind, the wisdom aspect of the mind deducing or figuring out the nature of reality. It usually goes like this. If this is this, then that is that. Wow. Oh Okay, so if that's that, then this is this. Oh shit. Okay, and it'll start to take you off into a whole direction that you probably would have never thought. Remember, thinking comes from the calculating aspect of the mind. It'll take you into a direction that you never thought that you would go. Gaining what? Wisdom along the way. Because each one is based on experiences. If this is this, then that has to be that. To think otherwise is the calculating aspect of the mind getting in the way. Your illusions getting in the way. Because if this is this, then that has to be that. Is that making more sense? Matrix theory is actually interesting. Pinpin says, did I miss best tools, guides? Okay, Gilman pulled a comment. Gilman says the body is just a vessel for the soul. Excuse me. Well, yes and no. But you are correct. But now you have to also take a look at what is the soul. You know, don't assume anything, okay? So through experience, you're going to now have to figure out what is the soul. Not what people tell you. The soul lasts forever. Everybody has one. We're all beings of light. We really come from the stars. We all have the gut connection. You know, again, if you use the wisdom aspect of the mind, you're going to base it on an epiphany that you have. I had an epiphany. And I know that it's true because I can now see it in the world around me. Okay, I can see it. If you can see it, then it's probably true, especially if it connects with your wisdom. If that wisdom aspect accepts it, now you have to review everything and say, okay, if this epiphany is true, then that means that, oh my God, I've been believing that this was this, and it's not. It's actually that, because it doesn't make sense. It's not logical for this to be true and that to be true. They're in conflict. You guys getting what I mean? KTS says, ever heard of a gang stalking DHS hires openly understood? Okay, Vinny Vince perfectly answered. Thank you. Again, guys, I'm doing this. Sorry, allergies are really acting up here. Guys, again, I'm doing this. You know, there might only be like 4 or 5 of you all that are going to get what I talk about. Maybe it might be 20 or 30. But I really do. I know my stuff. I've been studying it 40 years. I'm far along the path. I'm very far along the path. And, I mean, I can help you all figure out, like, you know, the nature of the secret, how to actually make the secret work. You can make the secret work. I'm sure most everybody's read about the secret. And most everybody's tried the secret and said, how come it doesn't work? Well, there's a reason for it. Okay, you got to know how to make the secret work. And the people that did the secret were like saying, hey, this is a great concept. You know, it builds on other things, and it's a really great book, and I'm going to make a whole lot of money on it. But the truth of the matter is you have to have the secret to the secret to get the secret to work. And I'll cover stuff like that. And some of you are going to be able to follow it, and some of you aren't, you know. It's really detailed stuff. It's really deep. I mean, it really does go super deep. And this is more, you know, I don't know, maybe 20 years from now after I'm dead, you know, 30, 40 years, somebody might run across my YouTube channel and go, hey, you know what? Dude. Thanks, man. You're dead, but really I appreciate it. Oh, and also, too, there's a new path that's been created within the canyon. And people are going to be able to start taking that new path. You're not going to have to follow the old path where you had the guru and then you had the group of people all learning together. So this is part of like helping people to explain, because here in the future, more and more people will be taking that new path. And the stuff that I'm doing here, they may find it. And it's going to help them in walking that new path. And we're going to probably call it quits here pretty soon. We're going on about an hour. People that used to watch my old live streams know that I usually like to keep it about an hour. But you guys are doing some great questions so far. Really great questions. And I do want to ask you all a favor. When you ask a question, okay, and I answer it, and you have more comments that you want to make about the answer that I did, please repost your question so it can remind me. Because if you notice, for me to be able to talk to everybody, there's no way I can like scroll all the way down and see if you there's no way I can do this personally one-on-one. So I'll go from subject to subject. So when I see you make another comment, I've got to then try to like put it back in my mind. Okay, what was he talking about? Oh yeah, okay, that's what I said. Okay, good. And he agrees or he doesn't. You see what I mean? So try to put a little bit about what you originally asked first. Let's see. Okay, Simpson is basically a show to admit all the secrets of the world, but people think it's just a cartoon. Yeah, Gilman, the Secret was really big about 10 years ago, the book The Secret, which was a form of using law of attraction, etc. But it was basically trying to change a person's reality or try to change, get the things that they wanted in life. And the concept is correct. It is true. It does work. But it just doesn't work the way that they're explaining it. Well, I'm going to do a stream every time I do a new video for this channel. I don't think I'm going to do it for the other channel anymore. I think what I really want to do is probably going to do it on this one. And I'll do a video like I did this morning, and then I'll open it up for questions and answers a couple, 3 or 4 hours later, or hopefully probably about 6 every evening. And that way people can jump in. And again, the idea is to ask questions about what I talked about in the video. But it's okay. We can go off on little tangents here and there. Another thing about learning the occult, guys, it's not linear. The calculating aspect of the mind loves linear. This is why there's so many masters out there that'll just tell you all the steps that you need to take to get there. But it doesn't really work that way. It doesn't. You could learn this over here and then learn this way over here. Okay, that's not linear. And then what will happen is a point will happen to where all of those pieces of information will come together for a bigger epiphany, which becomes now a new piece of information. So again, now you may learn this over here and that over here, and may have this realization, etc., these different realizations. And it's not linear, it's not a step by step. So I don't mind kind of jumping around a little bit because that's part of how it works. It's an interesting book. You can actually get most of it off the internet. He's asking about reading The Secret. I heard they dress like cartoon in real life, behind doors, and do all the occult things they show on Simpsons. Okay. Gilman, my coworkers told me to read my book back in 2011, but I kept forgetting. It's a good book. It's interesting. Okay, do you want me to tell you why orders, including Christianity, okay, judges even, you want me to tell you why they all wear robes? There's actually a reason for it. No, nobody's saying anything, so I'm going to take that as a no. I'm trying to make this interactive, people. Gilman jumps in. Okay, whenever you do an order or you do a religion, and this is the same for a judge, what it mainly is this, or we must have a pretty good delay too. I'll see about streaming that a little bit quicker. The thing about robes, notice a judge will only do his robes when he goes out into the court, okay? Let's say if I'm a Freemason. The only time I'm going to put on my robes is if I'm going to do a ritual or I'm going to go into a meeting, etc., where a robe is required. Because there's a psychology behind the robe. And the psychology is this. I want to make the robe special. So when I put on that robe, it transforms who I am. It's a process of transformation. And it does actually work. If you do it over and over again, you're creating what's called a new personality aspect. And that personality aspect comes into effect when you put the robe on. So what they'll do is they'll meditate upon the robe, they'll meditate on what it means to put the robe on, and they'll meditate upon who they want to be once the robe is put on. And actually, judges do the same thing, except... Oh, I lost my stream there for a minute. Okay, you guys are going to experience buffering. So, what they're saying is my video output is low. I may have to up my... Damn it. May have to up my internet connection again. So, if you think about it, a judge does the same thing. Where he learned it, though, was in school. So when he puts on the judge's robes, he's now transforming himself into what? A judge. Well, to tell you the truth, Gilman says normal people shouldn't feel transformed by an outfit. Ask women about that. See what they say. And tell me the truth. When you put on a suit, don't you feel different than if you're wearing jeans and a t-shirt? Come on, let's fess up. But yeah, for judges, same thing with a cop. Cop puts on a uniform. He's supposed to be transforming himself, which he learned in going through basic, through the academy, what it is to be a cop. So he knows when he puts on that badge and he puts on that uniform, he's now becoming the person that he learned to be when he was going through the academy. All right, Gilman, but you know what I mean. All right, guys, we're 51 minutes into this. Last questions on the subject that I did today, on the video. Gonna have to give it a few seconds. Again, guys, a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about, you don't have to believe me right off the bat. Just think about it, okay? Think about the statements that I'm making and see if maybe you don't see it in your lives. That you don't see that, wait a minute, he's right. Well, okay, putting on a uniform shouldn't change your morals. That's true. Unless, of course, all of your peers and everybody says that when you put on that suit, you are supposed to act a certain way. You're wrong, NSK. Clothing does affect how you view the world. I'll put it this way. If I walk into a nice restaurant and I'm wearing a fine suit, I'm feeling much more confident that I'm going to be treated well than if I walk in a holey t-shirt and baggy jeans and forgot to shower for a week. Is that not true? All right, guys, I want to thank everybody for showing up. I hope you enjoyed the show. We're going to do more of these. Hopefully, we'll have more people showing up to watch them. Come up with questions for the next one. If you want, put it in comments. The next educational video I'm going to do, I think, again, I'm going to start on the 10 bulls. Because the 10 bulls is really, really old. They say it's as old as the Jade Tablet, and I'll talk about the Jade Tablet too. But they say it's so old, and it really talks about the path. Again, if you want to call it the path to self-mastery, path to enlightenment, path to God, path to the universe, path to the Tao, path to, being able to control reality around you, then you can go ahead and word it that way. It doesn't matter to me how you guys word it. But it really lays out the path. And what I like and what I want to explain is how masters really explain things, okay? And then how other masters decide to come along and convolute it to where it's no longer understandable. They want to switch it around to where now the calculating aspect of the mind understands it. If the only reason you need the calculating aspect of the mind is to be able to accept a possibility, so the wisdom can now come out and forward. All right, guys, I want to thank everybody again for coming. Post questions, and I'll make sure to cover it in the videos.